Okay, I got a job here to fix my scroll saw here. The top blade holder here is worn out, and I got the pieces right here, and it's just all worn out. The spring is worn out, and it's just not working right anymore for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy what's down here on the bottom. The bottom has a just a little clamping system here, uh, different than the top. And I'm just going to copy this and make this on and do the same thing on top here, and to fix this. Now this here is the bracket that came off the top. The blade goes in between here, and then another piece comes on the other side here, and it clamps. But as I'm looking at this here, I see that this is drilled where the hole here is inset in, from which this here hole is right here on the pivot. And they must have that for some reason, because I guess where they have the pivot at, for this to remain square to the table, it has to be offset like that there. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy the distances in on the two holes here, and just make a straight piece, but make sure that the holes are properly aligned according to the original piece. Now my new piece that I'm making, I'm going to leave this here wide here, and this here is going to be where I'm going to put a screw through here and do the clamping, and make this side the threaded side here. And this right here has to be inset here for this thickness here in order to fit in between the bracket on the saw itself. And then this here has to be milled in also a certain distance in order to be lined up with respect to the bottom part of the blade holder. So I do have to copy all of this here, insets from here and the inset in from here, as well as the hole locations. Okay, just a little explanation of how the original was. What it is that this here would be hooked to the saw in this here pivot right here. The blade would go in between here, and you have another piece, the clamping piece right here, that goes on here. And then this here handle goes in between like this. And then there was a spring that hooked on the back here and came to the front of like this. So that whenever you tighten it this way here, this will cause the back side to expand, causing this here to clamp the blade. What happened is that the spring, of course, is just wearing out. It's going to fall apart there. And then the blade just starts, I can't get enough tension anymore. I can't get the tension I need with the handle and everything. It's just, and this had a screw in the front also, which was used to bind the blade up. But this here handle system just is starting to wear out, like I said. The springs are wearing out on it and everything, and it's just not working properly anymore. So what my plans are is to just make a solid piece down through here, make a clamping here, and then just clamp through with a screw, just like the bottom is. Now the bottom clamping bolt, that's a 1032 screw that they put in there. But this top one is a 632. And that was another problem I was having. It was stripping a screw after a while. And that's what was giving a lot of problems too, was a strip screw. So I made a bolt for it one time, 632. But after a while that starts stripping too, because you got so much clamping pressure on that blade, it just starts stripping the screw threads. 632, it's just too small. So since they're using a 1032 on the bottom, I'm going to use a 1032 on the top as well. And what I'm going to have to do though is I'm going to make sure that the 1032 screw, the edge of it, comes to the edge of the hole here, because I want to keep the same distance from here to the edge of the hole. I'll just be moving the hole back this direction now, that's all. Now I have to remember that I have to move that hole back the distance of a 1032 screw. Okay, as I said, I wanted to move that bottom hole over the distance to bring the edge of the 1032 screw to the edge of the 632 screw. So I took the two diameters, which were 0.135 for the 632 and 0.185 for the 1032. Then I took half those diameters, and that gave me 0.67, give me around 67 thousandths for the 632 and around 93 thousandths for the 1032 screw. And then I take the difference in between those two, and that would give me the distance that I need to move the hole for the 1032 screw to line up with the edge of this 1032 screw with the edge of the 632 screw. That way those two edges line up, and I have the same amount of distance then from the edge of the screw to the blade. And that distance that I need to move that 1032 screw in would be the difference between those two numbers here, which comes out to about 25 thousandths. So what I'll do now is I'll move this here bottom hole 25 thousandths of an inch in that direction, and then that will be offset where it needs to be so as to match this with a 632 screw instead of using a 1032 screw in place of it. And again, for the reason for the offset is because I want the edge of the 1032 screw to go to the same exact edge here of the 632 screw. So as we move back this way, so I have the same amount of distance of metal here to catch the blade between here and here as the original. Okay, let's do number 3 drill. Okay, that one there I'll tap the 1032. my roughing cutter end mill, that's the depth of the first cut already. Okay, got about 60 thousandths to go yet. Okay, let's look at the offset here now. And I've got good offset there. That means that this here, because it actually goes like this. And I was checking for the offset. It actually goes like that, how it goes. And I was checking for the offset here, the distance from this point here down to there. And the way to check that is to do it this way. And we got that offset. Okay. Alrighty, we're getting some progress here. Holes are lining up pretty good here now. Holes, yeah, this way here. The holes line up, oh, in the camera here. Okay, so you can see the holes are lined up nicely here. All we gotta do now is cut this away from the parent material. So what we'll do is we'll cut this down across here, get this off of here, and then we'll mill this straight here, and then mill this little bit angle this direction here to meet into that, and then take some of this out on this side here. And then I would say this part is done, and then we just need to make the cap for the other side. That's coming up next. Alright, so here's what we got done so far. Alright, this is going to be the part that gets the clamp. And we'll do the machining this direction here, this way, and through here. This is already threaded. You're going to cut this off across here, and then you're going to make the other block to match it, and the screw for it, and then be ready to go. Let's see how this fits inside the machine here now. Over to the scroll saw itself. See, that's going to fit in there like that. And there's a roll pin that goes through here and into this hole here. So next up now will be to machine this to the final profile, and that's what is coming up next. Okay, one last part here now to cut this off the length right down here. That's coming up next on that line right there. Okay, I'll cut this on my bandsaw. Right there is the line. And the blade coming down on there. Pretty close. Alrighty. Okay, so the next thing now would be to make the clamping block, which is nothing more than just a small piece of square steel with a through hole through it, a clearance hole for a 1032 screw that will bolt onto there and capture the blade. Let's see how this fits on the scroll saw. It would go in, it goes in like this, so that would go in like this here. Okay, so let me get a pin for here, temporary pin. Okay, we use a number 3 drill to drill through here. That's a little smaller. Here's a number 4 drill. Number 5 drill. Okay, we'll use a number 5 drill for a test here. And this goes like this. Like that. Okay, that goes down square like that, like it's supposed to. Let's check the original. Okay, that goes back a little farther. So what I need to do is I need to grind a little bit on the back side here a little bit, so this swings back farther. Can we see what's going on here? See how this is the original, that goes back a little further. This one here, mine, doesn't go back as far because I have to grind a little bit off the back side here a little bit for some more clearance. But other than that, that's going to work pretty good for that point. Okay, so I got to get a little more clearance on the back side of that. So what I'm going to do is I put this back on my vise here, squaring this up to here on this side. And what I'll do is I'm going to take a ball end mill and just come through the bottom side here a little bit and just give that clearance. Okay, give myself some clearance here now on the back side. Let's see if that's enough clearance here to clear that on the scroll saw itself. Here. Ready? Goes in this direction here. Still need to get a little more on the back side yet. Okay, let's put the original back in here and see how it hangs first. Okay, so the original goes back like that and comes back like that. Here's the one that I just made. Okay, so we go back all the way now as we need to. Alright, so I would say that this part right here must be done now, I guess, the way it looks. So now what I gotta do now is work on the clamping block for this side. Okay, what I just did there is I took down some more of that back side there. I had it real thick before, and I decided I better just make it a little bit more thinner, about the size of a nut. That way there's less weight on there too, and it makes it more easier balanced out too. And it matches pretty much this one here now, pretty close too. Okay. That's how it go, like that. Alrighty. Now it's time to make the bottom clamp here, the side clamp that actually clamps the blade onto this part here. Okay, so for right now I've decided that instead of making a clamping block, I'm just going to use a washer. Just put a washer on there and then put the blade between the washer and the holder here, and tighten the screw. Same thing down there. That has a clamping block on it. But again, the washer looks like it's going to work good. Let me put some tension on here now. And let's see how it runs. So if I need to put a clamping block on here, I'll just put a piece of clamping block on here. But right now, I think I'm just going to go with the washer. All I got to do is just back the screw out, put the blade in, tighten it up. The washer holds the blade between here and this here block. This is nice and straight down through here. So I think it's going to work okay. All I got to do now is take the drill bit out and put the roll pin back in there, and then put it all back together, and we'll see how it works. Alrighty, I got the roll pin put in there now. Everything's adjusted. Let's see how it works now. And cut a piece of maple. Okay, it's holding its tension really good.